What's up, guys? The Cold War multiplayer alpha is live right now, and we'll be live on Twitch all day tonight and tomorrow, grinding out as much gameplay as we can while it's around. If you want to come chat and hang out and see some gameplay, I'd love to have you guys, and the link to my Twitch is down there in the description below. Come hang out, have a good time, and let's talk about the alpha. But anyways, let's get back to the content at hand. So with the launch of the Black Ops Cold War multiplayer alpha, players are starting to get some hands-on for the first time with the game. Admittedly, having played a few hours before recording this, I'm having a blast. It's nice to see the game in an actual gameplay environment as opposed to lobbies full of literal pros that we played with a few weeks back and last week at the reveal of the game's multiplayer. But while you may be getting your hands on it for the first time, or perhaps you're still unable to, today I want to run down a few things, including some settings that you should know about that are incredibly helpful but aren't really properly acknowledged in the game right up front. These can help you in various different ways with some general stuff, and then afterwards I want to talk a little bit about some important things that you should know about but aren't necessarily settings themselves. But anyways, as we go along, let me know your thoughts down below. If you've played, how you liking it? And if not, of the new footage you've seen, does this further confirm any opinions you have or sway you one way or the other now that it's out there in the wild a little bit? Whatever it is, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. As well, if you are new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're chasing down 400,000 subscribers, and I'd love to keep you in the loop with all things Black Ops Cold War, Warzone, and Modern Warfare on a daily basis. So if interested, feel free to join the community. But anyways, let's jump into it. Let's start out with the settings here for Black Ops Cold War. The first setting I want to talk about is that of motion blur, and there's one big thing here with this. Motion blur has been something we've seen in previous Call of Duty titles. It's not anything brand new, but in Black Ops Cold War, we end up having the options of having it enabled, self-only, or disabled, where enabled has it both on the world and your weapon, so anytime you turn, you'll have that blur effect. If you end up having it on self-only, it'll only blur your character model, your hands, and your weapons, and not the world. But then if you have it off, it doesn't do any blur whatsoever. Personally, I'm not a fan of motion blur. I think it detracts from some of the visuals, but regardless of how you feel about it, if you interact with this, the big thing to know is that motion blur resets every single game for some reason. Now, that is more than likely a bug. It's not something that should be like that if I were a betting man. But just know that if you end up interacting with this, you're going to have to interact with it once again every single time you get into a new lobby. Another interesting thing to note in terms of Black Ops Cold War, which can be annoying but also has a setting to combat this, is that if you end up going to reload within Black Ops Cold War, you may end up losing that gunfight because you get caught in the reload. But where you can combat this and make sure that doesn't happen is by going into the advanced settings of Black Ops Cold War. To open up your advanced settings, just go to your settings page normally, and then in the bottom left you may see that HUD icon that says show advanced, which is your left thumbstick. Click that in and it'll open up a couple of different new settings that were previously hidden depending on whatever tab you're in. In the controller setting, you have the option with the advanced settings to enable or disable sprint cancels reload. So that means that if you were reloading and maybe you had, say, half a mag left, you could totally still get that kill. It was just the COD timing of you being in the reload trying to top off and somebody pops up. You can cancel that by simply tapping your sprint and quickly engaging that gunfight once again instead of having to wait that extra second, which could be life or death. Additionally, there are a few other air quote secret settings within Black Ops Cold War that are hidden within the advanced settings. Firstly, that being auto sprint. If you don't necessarily like having to always click in your stick to end up going as fast as you can across the map, some of these maps like Armada and Crossroads are kind of big, so you want to get in the action as quick as possible, but maybe you don't want to crush your thumbstick. Well, you can do auto sprints if you turn that on, which will help you get there a little bit faster without having to mash down that thumbstick to control it. Another one is that you can actually adjust your dead zones again here within Black Ops Cold War, something that was seen in recent Call of Duty titles, but it's not listed as your dead zones. In that advanced settings, though, you have the opportunity to adjust your left stick minimum and maximum inputs, as well as your right stick minimum and maximum inputs for that threshold. So you can adjust those accordingly. Admittedly, I haven't played around personally too much with these, but from those that have, I've heard it's a little bit finicky right now. It's not as intuitive as what we've seen in previous years, but again, it's alpha. We'll get there. Then finally, in terms of the settings here in the advanced hidden settings, is that of vehicle driving behavior. If you're like me and you jump into combined arms and you try and jump on a vehicle, you may immediately notice that it's kind of a regression from what we had in this past year. If you've gotten used to the Modern Warfare and Warzone formatting and mechanics of how to drive, it's not by default that. It's by default what we had in Blackout. Though if you end up going to these advanced settings, you can end up seeing that there is a setting for the attack vehicle control mode at the very bottom of your controller advanced settings. From there, you have two different settings available, aim-based and alternate. Aim-based is your Blackout style, which is that default for Black Ops Cold War. In this setting, you'll have the vehicles turn based upon your right stick aiming, so you control where you go based off your right stick. However, if you select alternate, that's the Modern Warfare and Warzone style, where you turn left and right depending on where you position that left thumbstick. This also then allows for handbrake use, which will give you some sharper turning as well. So it really comes down to whichever one you liked better, the driving mechanics in Blackout or the driving mechanics in Warzone. You now have the opportunity to utilize both within the same game. But those are the settings that I wanted to run down here with you, some stuff that I thought was honestly game-changing, even if just on a smaller scale, but some things that I definitely think you should at least know of that you can adjust in your game. They're not just those things that you're like, well, that's annoying, I gotta get over that, I guess, to continue on with this year. You can adjust those however you will. Now, as for some other things that you should definitely know, one, just starting this off on kind of a whimsical note, is the diving board on Miami. It actually works. You can end up getting some pretty big air if you just continuously bounce and jump on that diving board. So kind of a cool little Easter egg here at that one. The next big thing though is that stats do not count. So none of this stuff is going to carry over into the beta even, and of course certainly not into the full launch of the game. So that means play around with whatever you want here with this. Get some hands-on experience with every weapon in the game, with every perk in the game, with every lethal and tactical. The alphas and betas are meant to be feedback generators for Treyarch and any developing studio. So get your hands on anything and everything that you can, get some feedback, and then you'll be able to report back and give that on any social platform you want. So just play around, don't necessarily conform to any meta that may form here at this one. Try out everything, have a good time with it. As for some ranking here at this, we actually don't have any ranking system. Everything that's in the alpha is unlocked. Everything that is unlocked is all you're meant to have. There's no ranking included with this, but it's interesting because you actually can rank up. You'll see that if you end up playing enough, you'll get different icons as you go along. So that's there in the background, but numerically it's not displaying as any ranking, and there's no unlocks tethered to rank with it. So that's something interesting to note as well. Another thing to note is that having talked with Exclusive Ace here while playing with him a little earlier, he was running some preliminary tests and he ended up mentioning that it seems like from what he's found, the game looks to be running right now in Ground War servers, or that combined arms, at 24 Hertz. As for the 6v6, I'm not entirely sure. We didn't talk or discuss at length anything here with that one, but Ground War tick rate could be a little bit better. I'm assuming that's going to be something that once they're out of alpha, they're going to be going over to some more dedicated servers. But again, it's in alpha, and that's probably the biggest thing to know here out of this. The game is in alpha, meaning that things will change, things are imbalanced. This is just meant to be a little appetizer for the beta and the full game to come, but also while collecting enough data on Treyarch's end to make any necessary adjustments. So that's the biggest thing to note, is that if you do have something you feel strongly about, make sure that you voice it in a constructive way. Don't just be like, this game sucks, fix it. Tell them how they can fix it. Post a Reddit thread, post a tweet, post a YouTube video, whatever it is. Get your information out there, because while they are collecting data on the back end with data points in game, it's always nice to hear the feedback from the community themselves, and not just data. It's nice to see when there's actual feedback and opinions on those specific data points from real people. So make your voice heard. This is the time to do it. Same with the beta, but just know that right now, if there is a problem, it still has plenty of time to be worked out. But that's where we're going to wrap it up here at this. I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about this, give you some heads up on some things you may need to know, and also some just general things to know about the alpha here with this. I'm just excited to jump back into the game, get back to streaming, so hope to see you guys over on Twitch later in the day and as of tomorrow. But before we wrap it up, we may be experimenting with some different style content here on the channel over the next day or two, just because, again, I want to play as much as I can and not necessarily have to make super in-depth breakdowns or anything like that we've done in the past with different betas and launch content and our first hands-on experience with the game. So you may be seeing some different stuff here over the course of the next day or two. Hopefully that's okay, but for the time being, appreciate you guys stopping by. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so it's a single thing. We're getting all things Black Ops Cold War, multiplayer, Warzone, Modern Warfare still as we go on a little bit further as well. Any that interests you, hit the subscribe button. If you also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, there's the best places to keep kicking outside of YouTube. Probably live on both those. If you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. That said, thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.